Good evening, everyone. I have a special video for you guys today, and this video is going to show you how they hide the ice wall from the tourists who actually take a tour to supposedly Antarctica. And there's only two tour routes from two different countries, and you're going to be amazed. Once I went to the original flat earth map from 1892, it was easy to figure out how they do it. I'm going to show you guys. Enjoy the video. Okay, here we have the flight and cruise route for a tour to Antarctica from Planet Janet Travels. Let me zoom in on that a little better where you guys can see it. There we go. Okay, now let's switch over to this map of the route so you can see the names. It leaves out of Cape Horn, goes past the South Shetland Islands along the Antarctic tail and then back up. Now this right here would be the South Shetland Islands on Google Maps. And then of course there's the little tail of Antarctica. There's a panned out view for you guys to see it a little better. But pay attention to the tail of that Antarctica. It's going to be really important in a minute. Here's another view of the route. See how it goes along the edge of that tail and then they turn around and they go back. Okay, now here's where things get interesting. Let's look at the 1892 flat earth map. Now, this right here is South America. So let's zoom in here where you guys can see this. Now here's the route. There's Cape Horn, where they leave from. And as you can see right down below that, you have the South Shetland Islands. Okay, then you have the ice wall, of course. But notice this little tail right here. Well, that's the same tail that you see on the continent Antarctica that they show you on the globe, which is pretty slick. But anyways, this little part right here, this is the little area that they travel along and call it the Antarctica, which is only a tiny little bit. So the route goes this way. It goes through the Shetland Islands, comes down through here, past these little islands, then turns around and goes back to Cape Horn. And if you'll notice on this map how the ice wall looks, well, down here where they supposedly tour at, this is the only part of the little ice wall that sticks out in that area. So you'd be stationed there working or take a tour and you would never really see the ice wall. You only see that little piece of it that sticks out because of the rest of Antarctica is off limits. Now let's have a look at the only other tour that you can take to Antarctica, which goes from South New Zealand and back to Tasmania. Now notice, I want you to pay attention to that little Stewart Island there as you leave New Zealand. Notice they go down here to what they call Commonwealth Bay, and then they cruise along a little bit, turn around and go back to Tasmania. Okay, now let's have a look at that route on the flat earth map. Here we have South New Zealand, and notice right there on the other side of it, you see that little Stewart Island that I was telling you guys to look at on the Google map. Okay, so the route leaves here, goes down here, which on this flat earth map it says Disappointment Bay. Remember on the Google Earth map it says Commonwealth Bay, and then they go back, return to Tasmania. So anyways, like I said, they leave here, go along this little bitty tiny bulge that sticks out from the ice wall called Commonwealth Bay, Disappointment Bay, whatever. Notice it's the only part in the ice wall except for the other part that I showed you that bulges out away from the ice wall. So anyways, they go down through here, cruise along a little bit, and then return back to Tasmania. That way you never see the ice wall. You only see that little bulge of it that's sticking out there out of this whole map. Most of this wall is cut out perfectly all the way around except for those two little spots. And they both bulge out, and then they're at the exact same spot at the bottom of both of those countries, just like it shows you on Google Maps. Now, as you can see, It's really, really simple how they pull it off, making you believe that Antarctica is a continent when it's not. That's why it's called the Antarctic Circle, because it's an ice wall, a circled ice wall all the way around the whole world. And I've had a lot of people say, well, I've had friends that worked there and they didn't see any ice wall. Well, or were stationed there actually. And I'm sure they were stationed there.
And even those people just can't wander off and do what they want to. They're kind of like prisoners there. They're stationed at a base, and that's where they remain until it's time to leave. And I'll let them explain that to you themselves.
I saw Erebus and wanted to go hiking there and snowboard down it, and I was quickly told no, and then I was off to work. Yeah.
We had been thinking, oh, we're going to Antarctica, and then when you get here, it's like, oh yeah, I've got to work. And you don't put that into your head your first time. You're so excited about coming down that you forget that you're coming down here for a reason. They hurried us off the plane so we couldn't take a look around, and pretty much it was just here, and the next thing we knew we were in town. So the first thing we really saw of Antarctica was McMurdo, and that's always kind of disappointing sometimes.
I've seen a lot of different personalities come down here. The ones that seem to do the most of it are the diehards, or the more grounded people.
McMurdo Station sits beside the sea on Ross Island. It's dwarfed by Mount Erebus, the southernmost active volcano in the world. 3 kilometres away, on the other side of the peninsula, is the small New Zealand outpost, Scott Base. Scott Base is a lot more typical in size of the other bases dotted around Antarctica. And its proximity to McMurdo is unusual.
At Scott Base you have to live and work in one building. Our accommodation is a very small room. It's like a cell, if you like, or a cupboard. A lot of things here can get to you pretty quickly, especially in winter. And you cannot change them. You cannot argue much about them either, because this person will be in front of your eyes, you know, on the next smoker. So to be tolerant is very important.
I could live indefinitely here if I could, on occasion, get out. Like I've literally gone nowhere since August.
You will get to see some fun stuff, but the main thing you're down here for is to work. And I hate to sound cold when it comes to that, but I think a lot of people lose that focus. And when they come down here and all they get to see is a dish room or get to stare at a computer the whole time, I think they might be a little disillusioned.
We're in a box, and there's no escape from each other. You can't get away. You're forced to interact day in and day out, and that you get to know people very, very quickly. Whether those relationships be good or bad, they're going to be very, very intense.
But most people are thinking about heading home. When the last plane leaves, that's it. You're stuck here for the next 6 months. No way out.
So, as you can see, you're not just allowed to roam free wherever you want to. You are to stay where you are stationed at that base. And also remembering that the only way in and the only way out is by Air Force plane, where you are guarded the whole time.
And the rest of, and I say this in quote when I say Antarctica, is restricted, off limits to the public, to anybody. And that's due to the 1958 Antarctic Treaty. That's because they have something to hide. They know if you went anywhere other than those two spots, you would realize that you're on an ice wall. And even a lot of flat earthers, a lot of my friends of mine always wondered, well, how do they pull it off? How do people not know? And that's exactly how, the way that I just showed you. And just takes a little bit of research, especially if you have the flat earth map.
Now, going back to the tourists and the people who have been stationed there, I have a lot of people say, oh, well, those people would be able to see that ice wall if they were there. Well, if you were to say that, then you definitely have no concept of the reality around you. And what I mean by that is you cannot see the other side of town from your side of town, even in a small town. Now, let's take Cape Horn, for example. Measuring only 5 miles in length, it is small in size but large in reputation. Okay, so Cape Horn is 5 miles in size. So if you're driving down the road from the human perspective, you can only see about 3 miles to the horizon. You can't see anything past that. And that's a proven fact. So let's go over here to the flat earth map and look at Cape Horn, which is right here. Okay, now let's put a little red dot on Cape Horn, which is as big as 5 miles. Okay, now let's take that same little red dot and put over here on the tip of the ice wall, or the so-called Antarctica. Remembering that human perspective, you can only see about 3 miles ahead of you and all the way around you. So there's no way that you would ever know that you're on an ice wall. You would just think you were at the edge of a continent like you were told. Now, if you can't comprehend that, I don't know what to tell you. You need to go back to school and start over with the crayons, because it's really, really simple.
Anyways, hope that helped you guys out. Thanks for watching.